What's up, good people? My name is AJ and you are watching Straight Talks. Today I'm coming at you with a CFP study update video. Gonna inform you where I'm at in the process so far. Kind of what I'm thinking about the material so far. I'm gonna compare it a little bit to the CFA exam just because a lot of my following is in relation to that. And then talk about where I think my chances of passing stand. Like in many of my other videos, I have two qualifying statements to make here. And the first one is that I'm trying to pass the CFP program in a short amount of time just because I feel like if I am able to get past this thing in any less time than I could potentially spend doing it, then I want to do that. And the other one is that since I'm already a CFA charter holder, if you're watching this video and you're taking the CFP exam in a more traditional route, if you have a PhD or a CFA, or maybe another couple things, I believe, they let you forego taking all of the prerequisite educational content. So I am brand new to the CFP program. I just got a study book. It's like a condensed Kaplan book of, I think, the whole program. And I'm going to try to knock it out in a few weeks. That's basically where I'm at with the CFP program so far, is just 1 week of studying in with this condensed version of all the material into one Kaplan book. It's a 350-page book. I actually don't know how the traditional route into the CFP would supply you with study material. I don't know what that normally looks like. I'm far less educated on CFP test prep providers and options than I was with the CFA exam, just because for me it was kind of like, hey, you can do this accelerated path, sign up, skip the capstone by doing this, and then they send you a book, and it came from Kaplan. So that's all I have. I think there are about 8 sections, 10 sections, so that's probably how, or hopefully how, the rest of the CFP material is structured, just maybe in a longer volume of books rather than this one condensed book. I don't actually know. Let me know in the comments below if I'm off base here. Basically, I'm 100 pages into that book, and so far it's been fairly interesting. Some of the stuff is super annoying. It reminds me of some of the licensing exams I had to do here in the United States before I could provide investment advice. Other parts of the content for me have been pretty enlightening because they answer some of the questions that I think about from time to time in my current job, and clients ask me about from time to time, and I end up Googling, and I'm not sure exactly what the policies are on the topic that I'm Googling. I just kind of want to find an answer. So it's been fairly interesting. So far, the 3 sections that I'm through, I believe, are financial planning, risk management, and then like investment products. The first section there, the financial planning section, to be honest, was super easy for me just because in my current job, before I could start as an associate financial advisor, I had to go through a bit of an internal training program before my managers would kind of sign off and say, yeah, you're good to go and start conducting some of these financial planning meetings. So I was exposed to a lot of those topics and also coached on how to work your way through those topics and how to have the conversations with clients. I understand now where the firm that I work for was coming from with a lot of those things. Most of the content almost seems like a clone to what the CFP presents as the financial planning topics, which as a side point was also a little bit encouraging just because I now know that a lot of the core principles and core rules that I've been using and working with clients over the past few years have come from a very grounded source, which to me it seems like they came directly from the College of Financial Planning and their recommended practices. It was a little bit of a, not relief, but just a bit of good information to know that, hey, this is kind of how I've been doing it for a little while now. So, I mean, in that section, you have things like the 7 core principles of financial planning, which is like cash flow, saving for retirement, insurance planning, tax planning, all that. And I read through the section in my study material from Kaplan relatively quickly. I think there were 20 practice questions. I got 19 or 18 of them right. And the 2 that I got wrong, just made quick corrections to, understood why I got them wrong, and moved on. That section was the first one that I studied for the CFP program, knocked it out in a few days, and I told myself this is going to be extremely easy. The next section, not so much. So risk management, I'm pretty familiar with like life insurance and annuity strategies. I missed a couple of those practice questions for those 2 sections, but the section on homeowners insurance was just totally annoying for me to have to learn, and I certainly have not learned it all yet. I studied it and I set the base knowledge for those topics, which I've kind of talked about as a practice in how I studied for the CFA program, but I certainly have not mastered those problems yet. I have to take a lot more practice questions before I'm actually there. Specifically, it lists the like 15 different types of homeowners insurance policies as H-03, H-04, H-05, all the way up to, I don't know, 12, 15 or so. And they all have different rules and requirements, regulations, stipulations on how certain aspects of the home are covered under the homeowner's insurance policy and how much of this and that is covered. It's super difficult to remember which ones correspond to which type of homeowner's insurance because, again, they're all just denoted by different digits. and it makes it difficult for my brain to recollect which rules apply to what. That section was certainly tough. I think I scored like a 65% in the practice questions, and I'm certainly not looking forward to going back to that section during my review and memorizing which types of homeowners insurance policies actually correspond to which sections. The third section I've been through so far is called something like investment products, but it started off with option strategies. Again, really easy. So those questions pretty much correspond with the option strategies questions that I had on my licensing exams here in the United States, the Series 7 and Series 66. I'm going to continue reading through that section, and I should be done with it in the next couple days, which kind of leads me into my next point just about how I'm tackling the content here. So I already mentioned it's about a 350-page book that I need to get through. I'm doing about 30 pages a day, so really that's like 12 days of reading. 3 hours a day I'm spending, and I'm getting through about those 30 pages. I'm giving myself a 3-week window, 20 days, 21 days or so. After the 12 days, I'm going to just start doing practice questions, go back and redo all the practice questions on the quizzes within that study material that I have, but also there's one free practice exam from the CFP board on their website that I'm looking forward to doing. From a timing perspective, in my current situation, this is really easy, and so I'm going to go back to what I mentioned earlier on how the traditional route to the CFP program looks. I imagine the content is presented in a much longer volume of material, and that I'm missing out on a lot of the details of that in the condensed book that I have. I could be wrong. Maybe everyone just kind of gets this 350-page study book, but it's really easy to get through the whole thing in like 2 weeks. I don't see the study timeline on this thing, and I could be being naive here, but I don't see the study timeline being much more than a month at most, given the time it would take to review all the study material that I have right now and also get through the practice questions that I have. The big potential weakness in my strategy is just number of practice questions, so I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not very high. And I think I talked about in another video with the CFA exams that I had like 10,000 practice questions throughout the 3-year program that I ended up completing. And it's going to be far less than that, like maybe 100 or a couple hundred for the CFP. So practice questions are the best way to learn in a lot of scenarios, and I won't be doing too many of them. So of course, hoping to leverage the ones that I do have to their maximum potential. Also just hoping a little bit that the CFP exam does not contain a lot of curveball questions that are very much unlike what I've seen so far in my practice questions. Speak to the difficulty of the study program that I'm using so far. You know, it's just really not hard at all. Relative to what I can speak on, which would be my university courses at a top-tier finance school, and then the regulatory licensing exam, Series 766 in the US, and then the CFA. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate my university studies at like a 7. I would rate the licensing exams in the United States at like a 3 in terms of difficulty, 3 out of 10. CFA exams, level 2, 10 out of 10, especially level 2. Other exams, maybe 8 or 9 out of 10. And this so far kind of seems like maybe a 2 or 3. The content that I've seen so far is not anything challenging. There's a fairly good volume of it, but nothing like the CFA program was. I'm really hoping that there aren't some hidden, extremely difficult questions that I'm not getting exposure to, and I'm going to totally bomb the exam. But I'm not saying the whole thing's going to be easy either. Just so far from what I've experienced, the first 100 pages of this study material, yeah, it's not tough. Where I know it will be getting more difficult is with the estate planning section, because when I started my CFP study, when I was first choosing which study test prep method to go with when I was doing the capstone alternative to forego all the education requirements, I think I got like 10 or 12 practice questions for each section of the CFP program. And this was like a year back, so I don't really remember how it went. But I just know that for the estate planning section, I got like 2 out of 10 right. I didn't know anything that the estate planning section was talking about. So I'm going to have to do a lot of learning there about estate planning. And then I've also heard that the tax section, in some people's opinion, is the hardest section. So I imagine I'll have to do some work on that front as well. Probably I've just covered some of the easier sections up to this point in my test prep program, but they're really easy. So even if the other sections are twice as difficult, I'm still not worried about being able to knock out all my studies in 2 weeks and then give myself a week for practice questions before the exam. Now, I'm certainly going to provide an update maybe in a couple weeks from now while I'm still studying, and then after taking the exam. And if I fail this thing, I will admit that to all of you and say, hey, I was an idiot. This exam was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And I'd be fine with doing that if that comes around. I, of course, hope that I pass the exam and I don't have to spend more time going back and studying again. I'm not afraid of admitting defeat either. So I'll keep an update going on this channel, maybe 1 or 2 more. And then, of course, I'll be doing some comparisons between like CFP and CFA and the MBA programs, other things that people have asked me about. So just feel free to leave a comment down below in this video if there are other parts of the CFP program that you have questions on that I can answer for you, or if there are or if there are other pieces of content that you'd like to hear me talk about in relation to the CFP relative to the CFA exams, whatever else you're thinking. And I'll talk to you guys hopefully when I've passed this thing. Thanks for watching.